Well, here we are, another episode of The Strick, and this is very exciting because it's, again, one of your friends, Anthony.
Yeah, so not just one of my friends, but one of my friends and longest clients.
Well, and it works twofold because not only are we interviewing people that you work with and that you know who happen to be extremely talented and intelligent and experienced, but it just goes to show how long we can retain our clients and they enjoy working with us and we have these great relationships. So
That's right.
It's a good victory lap.
I would say that Joy has been at 5 companies since I've known her, and all of those companies that are still around are still clients of ours.
Interesting. Yeah, so I'm excited. Let's dive in. Joy, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, that would be great.
Sure. I'm Joy Morel. I'm currently with Woebot Health, the SVP of Marketing, which just means that I manage the marketing team, but I'm also on the commercial team. So I'm here to create content, tell stories, drive leads, also help with integrating our tools into our partners and clients. And so we're responsible for driving utilization and driving engagement through and around the product, and really focusing our efforts on any type of metrics-based marketing. We do use media, some from a paid perspective, but a lot on owned channels right now, and really just trying to get our story out there from a commercial perspective and then also from a brand voice perspective.
Oh, so a little backstory on how I know Joy too. We go way back. So how old is Bella now?
So Bella is 16 and she will be 17 in June. And I met you when I was pregnant.
I know. So the
it's
first project.
Wow.
So Joy has been everywhere. People laugh at me when I register for something with my AOL address. Joy used to work at AOL.
I sure did.
And everywhere you've been since then, you've taken us with us, and you've had, I don't want to say an illustrious career because it's not over, but one of the things that we'll talk about is you've always marketed different industries with always the focus on technology. So the things that we'll uncover today are what tactics change, what stay the same, what's constant. But tell me, how did you get into this space? Let's start way back.
How did I get into this space? So this probably will not sound interesting at all, but I did study marketing in college. I went to Virginia Tech. And I started with, America Online, AOL, out of school. And that was just a really big company that you could jump from department to department and learn all different aspects of marketing. And really that was the start of online advertising, if you could believe it or not. But I worked in online advertising, I worked in partner marketing, I worked in events, I worked in PR. I don't know, it's just such a great learning ground. It was like the NBA after school. So I've just stuck with it. It's always made sense to me. We're all consumers, so it's kind of easy to think from a consumer point of view. But, as time has gone on, it's really about kind of separating yourself from that and making sure that you are thinking of the audience that you're marketing to, or the marketing that you're trying to provide, or the audience you're trying to provide value to, right? So I think a lot of what I've learned over time is to talk less about us and more about what it means for them. So it's an evolution.
So that evolution, that's kind of the whole theme of today, right? At the time, everybody was getting an AOL address. Your audience was huge. As you've kind of progressed in your career, you've gone to more, in my mind, specialized
For sure.
organizations, right? So how has it changed from casting a broad net, we'll get a few, see what sticks, to very targeted campaigns?
Yeah, so interesting. So I've done both direct to consumer or even B2B2C or B2B, right? So there's all three different avenues that you can go down. And so even in a broad net from consumer, you really are segmenting those audiences with different messages to make sure that you are resonating and making sure that you are delivering the product in the way that they need to receive it, where you meet them. And when I was at AOL, one of the teams that I did work on was the retail marketing team. And so I managed relationships like Walmart and Sam's Club and USPS. And that was very different, right? We were marketing in a product that was broad in nature, but where our audience was and where we were interacting with them was very specific. And so what we did at Walmart was not the same thing that we did at the post office. So from that perspective, it's changed. But right now where I'm at Woebot Health, we are doing more B2B2C, but also from a sales and commercial perspective, we're doing B2B. Your message is different. Your channels are different. I don't know, I guess the approach that you take to learn about what are the pain points for each one of your audiences and understand what problem we're trying to solve for them is very different. So with Woebot, when we are telling our story and trying to educate to our buyers who would be a health plan or be a healthcare provider, what we are communicating to them and how we communicate to them and the channels that we're communicating to them on are very different than when we're talking to the end user who may be the patient of one of those providers. So yeah, you have to shift. You have to be able to think in all three modes because it's the same product, but it offers different value depending on who's using it.
And so that shifting thing, that's another thing that I wanted to talk about. Like I was joking, we cut up that focus group footage, and it was what, like 6, 7 people sitting around a table
It's terrible.
being
It's so
what was that
funny.
woman's name? Was it like Bernita or something?
It's all right. I just remember the mullet.
Yes, yes. She
Yeah.
wore it well in that 3 pixel photo. But so back focus groups, people would come and spend like an hour, 2 hours, get compensated financially for their time. That model of they're vested and they're sitting in that room, hearing each other's voice, that type of feedback to now, I click on Woebot in the app and then 1 out of 5, how would you rate this experience? 5, and you move on.
Yeah.
How has the means in which we've collect this data, how does that impact your decisions?
Okay, so we're going through some of that now. So a lot of the stuff that we're doing now, since our product is app-based, we do, research studies that we invite people into. We do product testing that we invite people into. And then, so we have more direct access to our consumers, I would say. The focus groups were always fun to sit behind the glass, and I feel like it was uncomfortable for everybody. But, we can still do, like, sometimes we will send out a survey. It can either be to our users or it can be to people who we're trying to target, who we believe are their ideal persona or user, to get feedback in different products. But we also, you can do it with Zoom now, right? Like you can get on and have like a conversation with a bunch of people and have like a focus group study. It just feels more intimate to me. And the way that we get data about how we can improve it, what value the product's actually driving for them, what problems we are solving for them. We like to know what we're doing well and what we could do better. From a media perspective, yeah, we also learn a lot from media, right? So depending on where we're doing the placement, the data that we're getting back from it. So a lot of it's behavioral through the app, but even from a media perspective. So we are learning about like who we're reaching, who is actually converting through different types of content. And I think paid is really interesting, but I do find the own channels from a social media perspective the most informative because there are channels, we control the voice. We do some advertising on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is very effective for us from a B2B perspective. But each platform, if you use their tools, like we just did a LinkedIn Live, they obviously give you more data and more information if you use their platform. And so you guys work with us on Meeting of the Minds, which is I'll call vodcast. So we do some webinars and then we do some that are just pre-recorded and we share out. But since we started using LinkedIn Live, the information that we have to optimize who we reach, how we reach them, and how we convert them through a MQL to an SQL, from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead, we've gotten much sharper. And so it makes sense, right? So each one of the platforms want you to use their tools. They're getting data, we're getting data. And it just really helps us optimize how we spend our time and how we create content and how we reach who we're trying to from a buying perspective so that we can fill that pipeline of leads for our commercial team. It's changed so much.
It has. And even the way that you convert things from marketing to sales, I think that's the same thing as the LinkedIn model, right? Like all these platforms gave us these tools for free. And now all of a sudden they're free with the caveat that you use it within our ecosystem. Or even like Google Analytics. We did an episode with a buddy of ours, Sarah, how much the Google Analytics changed. People had careers based on the old structure of Google Analytics and metrics.
Yes.
And then they changed that.
Yes.
So what do you think? I mean, you're savvy. You can adapt. Do you like this constant adaptation and ever changing?
You just have to be really open to it. I think you really have to be open to not being perfect. I think you have to be really open to being vulnerable, of not being the expert, and just learning as we go. And so, we did some of those webinars on LinkedIn and promoted it on LinkedIn, but we're still using a Zoom platform. And the results were fine. But when I had first come in, I was like, can we test LinkedIn? And everyone's like, that's not what we use. And I'm like, well, just because we've always done it doesn't mean that we have to keep doing it. Like, let's just see everything as a test. And I think, and I probably made that shift when I was at Patients Like Me, but I was just like, you guys, we have to try. It's moving too fast to not try new things. And you can't be afraid to have results that aren't like 69% open rate. Like everyone wants to have like the best results. And I think if we just use the metrics to learn and then create a better experience, it'll create better conversion. And so LinkedIn's done a bang up job of integrating everything from the invite to the share to the metrics to the platform. So why not leverage it if we're going to get better results from it? Like kudos to them for figuring it out.
Yeah, they've done a great job, and their tools have gotten better with the exodus of Twitter or X from most of our
Yeah.
clients' radar. Like LinkedIn has really stepped up.
But it only works because it's a benefit to us, right? So like they are getting something out of these improved tools, but people are only utilizing them because it's working for us, right? So like I do think they're thinking of the overall experience of the users and then also to give back to the people who are creating the content. And so, yeah, LinkedIn's become really valuable if you think about it. So it's wild how it's changed.
Yeah. Well, and to that point too, I mean, there was a it still happens to an extent, but there was a brief period where we would make 3 iterations of every ad and we would shop them and see how they responded. Now with the instant response, you make one, if it doesn't work, you change it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you have to be open to that, right? Like you have to be open to, I'm like, just put it out there, see what happens. You know what I mean? Like we're not saying anything egregious, like it's not anything negative, but like see if the format works, see if I'm like, if people aren't responding to it, then it's not meaningful enough. We have to be open to adapting and not being so stringent to, well, that's not our brand guidelines. People aren't interacting with it, right? So like it can't be about us. It can't just be about like, oh, those are our brand guidelines, because that's fine on like a corporate website, but that's just like not the world, And like
Yeah.
if it's Instagram, if it's TikTok, like we just launched TikTok and that was like, it took us almost a year to make that decision. And I'm like, we have to move faster to figure out if it's going to work or not, And like if we don't have content that people on there find valuable, we'll find out, right? And so I don't think that people should assume that LinkedIn is just B2B or TikTok is just D2C. Like we have a lot of valuable content. People may want to be interested in hearing it. So
I
Yeah.
guess my question with that is there any sort of reaction when you fail? Like, I mean, obviously internally you have to answer to somebody, but like, is there any sort of
no,
weight to saying like, oh, what if this only gets 3 likes, like there's actually a negative effect?
for me, it's to figure out how to optimize our time and our resources for people and money. Like
Right.
if people aren't engaging with our content, is it important for us enough to pivot it? Or is that platform not really a great use of our time? And so, and maybe we just haven't been found yet. There's a way to integrate your message across your channels so they connect, but there's kind of like a magic and a science to it, so that you can be found. And there's different people on each platform. So I don't know. I'm not usually all that worried about the likes.
And I think too that expression comes to mind, like throwing good money after bad. Like
Yeah.
to your point, you've got to be like, this isn't working. We've got to pivot. I think there used to be that mentality, like we've got to stick with it. And maybe you do, but if it takes you 10 months to convert 2 customers, those customers, you were reaching out to them in the wrong place.
Yeah, and we're so quick to do it. Like we're really using our own channels to figure out a way to amplify our voice. I don't know. I feel like we have more control over it, and we know that we have good content. We know that we have meaningful content. We get great feedback on it. We're just trying to figure out how to distribute it in the most thoughtful way so that it just brings more eyeballs to it, more ears to it. So
In working with you for all these years, that's something I think you always do well is targeting the content to that specific audience, right? Like, and the example you just gave is taking one piece of content and repackaging it. I think so many people feel like, oh, we made this video, just push it out. I mean, that's no longer going to work. You really have to make people feel like
yeah,
this was made for you.
I really do believe in testing, trying it, and don't be afraid to try it, because a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't want to show Joy the open rate. I'm like, you guys, we tried it. Like, it's our first shot. Like, it's okay. Like, what would we change and optimize from here? And what data do we have that's going to help us optimize and change it? Because you don't always have it. And it's like, what do we have to help inform our decision? And what would we like to inform our decision so we can keep growing and evolving it? So like, as long as I see things from like a growth mindset perspective of we are continuously learning and evolving to get better, I think it helps the team feel less afraid to fail.
Yep. So what's one tactic that you feel you have just slightly evolved over your career that always, I don't want to say always works, but always gets the response you're hoping?
For me, it's humanizing technology. Why is this platform important to them? Why would they trust us? These can be some heavy trusted situations from a health perspective when you're sharing with people your experience and your symptoms. Why should they care that we're here? And so I think we had a little bit of it, but our marketing materials, we had some like, user stories or like testimonials, but our marketing materials really did not speak to that, did not speak to what their lived experience was and why we were there. And once we did that, it was less about the technology and it was more about the why.
And I feel like every client you've been at, we've always done that human interest piece, whether it's a technology company using their URL. And why is that so important? Why is that? How about to you as a consumer? Why does that resonate so much?
Right. And so I know it sounds silly, but I say this with my kids too, right? They're so concerned with being perfect in school and so concerned in just being perfect in general, right? Like being perfect kids. And thank goodness my kids don't fight with me, even though I have a teen and a preteen. We're all human. We're all human. We're all flawed. We're not perfect. And I think we were just talking about it at work yesterday and the whole imposter syndrome thing. I'm like, everyone has it, right? So like, just let it go. We're just human and you have to connect on that human level. And so it's just really important to make that human connection for it to resonate with people because people can see themselves in those stories. So if you're a doctor or a patient or a marketer, like we all understand why Woebot can help people in their mental health journey. And for a doctor, it may be that they can't be there for their patient at 4:00 in the morning. But if we give them a tool that their patient can interact with so that they have that immediate in the moment access to care, and then we can give data back to the doctor so they have a more informed visit the next time they get together with that patient, that's something that people can connect on, right? So like, yes, it's great that we are using AI in a responsible way. And it's great that, we're continuing to evolve what that looks like from a technology perspective and everyone can talk about it. But at the end of the day, it's about connecting to those humans to make sure that you get them the care in the moment that they need it. So it's so important. It doesn't matter what you're marketing, really.
I think you've always used and operated around like the brand champion model too. Like anytime we've profiled a patient, no matter what the condition was, always showing them in the positive light. Like here they are sharing their likeness and their story on behalf of the brand. That speaks volumes of their allegiance to that brand.
110%. And I think that it is always in a genuine and authentic way. It's better to have other people tell your story for you than you tell it yourself, right? And so when they're open to it and they want to, and we're very lucky with Woebot or even patients like me that people were really thankful for the technology being there because it helped them just live better day to day. So it was great to have their voice tell our stories versus us have like a one sheet that says we're so great.
Very helpful. Yeah. Great validation. What are some other things, like other trends or, other ways in which we do things now that you are happy to see come into play?
For me, I love podcasts. I love them. I love them for work. I love them for personal use. I think it's almost like a free education in some ways. And I love these like live chat platforms or podcasts if you wanted a bit more long form, because I feel like you get to know people better and therefore know their brand, know their product better. Like you can listen while you're folding laundry or going for a walk or traveling to the next meeting, right? So like, I love podcasts. I love everything about it.
I love that you're marketing a podcast while on a podcast. That's how good you are.
So
You're
meta.
so funny.
That's amazing.
I
Thank
love
you.
it. I love it. I think it gets you to know the people. So we just started chats with Woebotiers, right? Because I was like, there's so many amazing people who work at this company. And like you can put on your website built by experts all day long. What does that mean? Right. And so, like, this is a way that people can actually hear their voice and feel like they're part of the conversation. And I don't know, I just think it's such a great way to share information and stories.
It's a great medium. And if somebody's willing to give you 22 to 30 minutes, like they care enough about that topic that's the audience we want. And I'd rather have a couple of committed people who are going to willing to sit through that than have a lot of eyes on the first 10 seconds of a 3-minute piece. And I think it's still one of those places where like you really can establish a thought leader in the podcast space.
Yeah.
You know, like your other content, your social content, short social consumables can drive links and likes and clicks. But at the end of the day, like it's an intimate experience to listen to a podcast. Like you are alone with your thoughts and this voice in your head. It plays into, like, I had a creative director who always used to use the term theater of the mind, like close your eyes and what does this ad say to you? Like podcasts, I think, play really well to that.
Yeah.
What are some things that you have seen come and go and you're like, I am so glad that's gone?
For me, I haven't really gotten into the influencer space. So we're starting to do that at Woebot. You know, we're going to build an ally team, and just start working with people from an advocacy perspective, that I think that we can use social and those stories when people are comfortable and let them have control of how they want to share. But I love it. I love it for that.
Well, before you said early on in your career, you stopped marketing for yourself, right? I forgot, and you were marketing for others. How do you now separate yourself as a mom of 2 kids who are growing up in this? How do you separate yourself from a consumer who's knowledgeable about what's going on in the world to a marketer? Like, does that
I have
make you
to
set
say,
different boundaries?
I think it's a strength, right? I think I think what I was thinking of, like, in separating was kind of taking it personally. Like when we were talking about, like, do people like it? Like, do you have the right open rate? And it's kind of like, it's not a flaw to you, the person on the marketing team. Like, we're learning. But, like, my personal experiences and bringing them to, you know, what we do each day and what the experiences are that we provide through the content, through the platforms, through our messaging. Yeah, not everyone's lived experience is mine, right? I'm an N of 1. So I just try to help it inform, but not influence in a way that it's not, like, open-minded to the people you're trying to reach and understand their experience. So because we do have an adolescent product, and I know not every adolescent is living through the same experience as my 2 kids, but yeah, the pandemic, it really affected all of them. And so for me to not think through what we have gone through in our journey from a mental health perspective, I think that would be too hard. I think it's okay to use it as a value, but not a directive.
Yeah, I mean, and as creators, like our life shapes us, it shapes the stories.
It sure does.
What's next? Like, what's the next trend that you want to see, that you think is coming? Like, you guys are using AI to help people anytime they need help, anywhere they are. How do you top that?
So I don't know if you can top that.
Good answer. Good
but
answer.
I love that we do have a chatbot. I love that we're leveraging AI in a responsible way, if that makes sense. I think ChatGPT is fascinating, to be honest with you. Like, it is wild to play on. I'm like, this could be a rabbit hole for me all day. But we are working in, not delivering care, but we are an adjunctive tool to care, right? So, like, we can use AI to learn and to deliver a more personalized experience so that it is private and secure with you and your chatbot. Like, I think that is so cool, and that it can be used in a way to reach people. It's hard to get a doctor's appointment, right? For any of us, like, there's always a wait. And when you are living with anxiety and you're trying to self-regulate, if you could learn tools that will help you in the moment, that is not a book, right? But is actively walking you through it, that is based on principles of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is seen as the gold standard. I think that's amazing. That's amazing. Like, that's a good use of my kids and their mobile phone. Like, they are learning tools and techniques that will help them learn how to self-regulate at this age so that they can carry that through with them in life. Like, to me, that's a beautiful use of technology and AI. Staying grounded in what's real is a big deal. Our AI chatbot is empathetic and is backed by real humans, right? So, like, that's the whole point of doing chats with Bobartiers, is to show the real humans behind this AI chatbot that you can use in the middle of the night when you wake up in a panic attack and need help, right? So, like, I guess it goes back to humanizing technology.
Yeah. I mean, that's the right balance. Humans are using the tools available to make life better for other humans.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. I think that's a perfect way to end it, Anthony.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Joy.
No, thank you guys. This was fun. We should talk more often just for the hell of it.
Anytime. Thank you so much for putting up with me for 16 or 17 years. And we will see you on the interwebs.
And we'll see you guys all in 2 weeks for another episode of The Strict.